What is going on, guys? It is that time of year again where I rank my top 25 favorite roller coasters. Last year I think I did my top 20. This year we're going to be doing top 25. So there's quite a few new coasters that have entered this list, and some of my rankings got shifted around quite a bit this year. So I'll be going through all of that in this video, giving you all my thoughts. This is all strictly personal opinion, so if you don't agree, I really don't care. Some of these might rank higher based on personal bias, or maybe some of them were running a little bit faster than the others on some day. It just depends on how these coasters are running, because coasters are pretty moody. Sometimes they can run a little slow, sometimes they can run faster. So yeah, let's start off the list with my number 25. This is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Universal's Islands of Adventure. What else is there more to say about this coaster? The theming is probably the best themed coaster I have ever ridden. It just feels like you're in the dark forest of the Harry Potter world. I only chose to ride this coaster at night because my first ride was a night ride, and I just think it's the most realistic experience you can get to riding Hagrid's motorbike through the dark forest of the Harry Potter world. Just a phenomenal ride at Universal. If you don't really care about theming, or you're not a fan of Harry Potter, this ride might not be for you. I just think it's absolutely insane. It exceeded my expectations. Number 24 is a wooden coaster that gets a lot of praise. It's Phoenix at Knoebels. This wooden coaster gets a ton of praise. It ranks as the number one wooden coaster in the Golden Ticket Awards. A lot of people are starting to realize that this is not the best wooden roller coaster in the world. It's amazing. The lap bars make it so that you get this insane airtime. It just has buzz bars, so you go absolutely flying over all those hills. It's like if you take a Woodstock clone and amp it up to like 1,000. That's what I would describe this ride as. I don't agree that it's the best wooden coaster in the world, but it's still a really great ride. I might get a bit of hate for this next one, but you know what? That's okay. Number 23 is Maverick at Cedar Point. Listen, I always think that this is a great ride. It's not a bad ride at all. It made my top 25, so it's got to be great. The launch in the tunnel is absolutely amazing. It's definitely my favorite part of the ride. I don't know, it just doesn't have that same effect on me like it does for most people. I personally find it a little bit overrated, but it's still an amazing ride. I can't deny that. But I do understand why people rank this so high. Maverick might not be my kind of ride, but you know what is? Montu at number 22. Montu is phenomenal. I love B&M inverts. B&M inverts are probably one of my favorite coaster models, and Montu is definitely one of the best. It has a bat wing that will rip your legs off. The zero G roll is probably one of my favorite B&M zero G rolls. It's power all the way through. The second vertical loop is honestly better than the first, and the trenches add a great sensation to speed. What a fantastic invert. But not my favorite B&M invert, because I got two more coming. At number 21 is Banshee at Kings Island. Banshee is intense in a very different kind of way than Montu. Montu has a lot of whip. Banshee is intense in those valleys. I honestly don't know what I prefer, the pretzel knot on Banshee or the batwing on Montu. Both are absolutely incredible that try to rip your legs off. Banshee is one inversion right after another, no mid-course brake run, the longest B&M invert in the world, and then kicks it off with one final inline twist that is a great change of pace and an intense helix. I think it's just such a complete layout. People will complain about the rattle, but the rattle doesn't bother me at all. And in fact, it adds to the intensity. Definitely a top 5 coaster at Kings Island. But not my favorite B&M invert. Back-to-back inverts, we got Katoon at Mirabilandia. I've always described this invert as if you take the height of Banshee and add the whip of Raptor. It's a huge invert. This ride is, I think, the same height as Banshee. It's around 160 feet tall, massive inversions, lots of whip. That zero G roll is huge, and then you get cranked through it, and it's also really intense. By far the best coaster in Italy that I've experienced. We're gonna head back to Kings Island for number 19. This is the Beast at Kings Island. I do not have a bunch of footage of this ride because it's way out in the forest. By far one of the best night rides of all time. My recent night rides that I got during Haunt were incredible. They put misters at the bottom of the second drop, and you plunge into the abyss. You can't see anything back there. It's crazy. A Haunt night ride on the Beast is next level. Day rides are super fun too. I know people complain about the day rides being kind of boring, but I still love the day rides. The Beast is such a classic. Ride it for the nostalgia and the night rides. At number 18, we got my favorite B&M looping coaster. This is Kumba at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Holy crap. I don't know, guys. It runs so good. It has this insane roar to it, and just the feel of the coaster on the track is unparalleled to any other coaster. Some people say it's a rattle. I think it just has this great feel to it. It runs full nylons, so this thing flies. It cranks you through that curb roll. I think Kumba has my favorite B&M zero G roll, probably this or the one on Montu. And for a 30-plus-year-old coaster, this ride runs amazing. Please keep it around Busch Gardens. Taking the number 17 spot is Phantom's Revenge. I have not ridden this in a very long time. As you can tell, I've only ridden this with the green color scheme. time. But man, this ride is a speed demon from what I remember. And then that second half has so much ejector airtime. With the tiny little pool noodle lap bar, you go flying. But I absolutely love the speed on this ride. And Phantom's Revenge is definitely one of the best at showcasing this speed. It flies. Taking the number 17 spot and barely missing the top 15 is Leviathan at my home park, Canada's Wonderland. Leviathan has slowly been slipping in my rankings, but I can't deny I have such a sentimental attachment to this coaster. Between operating Leviathan and taking my grandma on Leviathan, there's so much to love about it. I've been riding it since past Solar Day 2012, so I've seen it at its best. I've seen it when it's just running okay. I've seen it all with Leviathan. There's a couple elements I like to nitpick on it, like there's 2 turns that I just think don't really do anything for the ride. It's not a very complete coaster, but for what it does, focusing on speed, it does a great job of that. It has a couple amazing airtime moments. But I do think Orion at Kings Island, coming in at number 15, is a much more complete coaster. It's still not a super long ride. It's about the same length as Leviathan, but I do think the elements are a little bit more thought out. The floater hill is not as good as the ones on Leviathan, but I love the helix. I love the ending. It goes out with a bang, unlike Leviathan. So it's just basically everything I don't like about Leviathan is what Orion does better. Orion also has a better night ride than Leviathan. It's not a parking lot coaster, but yeah. So Orion is just a step up from Leviathan, but both are great giga coasters. Taking the number 14 spot is Legend at Holiday World. This fantastic CCI has so many laterals. It has this crazy demonic helix that pins you to the side for it feels like at least 20 seconds. One of my friends, Sammy, said she felt like she was going around like 30 times. It was incredible. Legend is one of those rides that's very hard to get footage of, but when you ride it, it's a long ride, so many laterals, so much variety, and yeah, it's just an amazing ride. It kind of gets overshadowed by Voyage, but Legend still holds its own. Great number 2 at Holiday World. Legend is mainly focused on laterals, but a coaster with a great mix of laterals and airtime is Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. Wow, Mystic Timbers really surprised me this year. I used to not be a fan of the Millennium Flyer trains, but I learned how to ride them. I learned how to hold the restraints up, and holy crap, you get a crap ton of airtime. Mystic Timbers has 16 airtime moments with a bunch of laterals mixed in as well. The night rides on this that I got during Haunt were some of the best rides I've ever had on Mystic Timbers. They had the fog machine at the bottom of the finale, and I was getting some one-click rides, so I was getting sent flying on this. Mystic absolutely hauls. But it's not my favorite coaster at Kings Island. My favorite coaster at Kings Island is Diamondback. Oh my god. Guys, Diamondback is so good. Oh my god. Between the operations, the colors, the layout, the setting, the terrain usage, the airtime, what a gorgeous roller coaster. It runs phenomenal. People will complain about the rattle just like they do with Banshee. Doesn't bother me at all. It's barely there. You barely even notice it. There's only 2 hills that I don't really like on Diamondback, the 2 hills after the mid-course, but the splashdown drop and the drop off the mid-course make up for it, and those 2 massive floater hills send you flying. You soar over those hills. It's just such a majestic ride. I could watch it all day, but it's not my favorite B&M hypercoaster because just one-upping it is Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland, my personal favorite B&M hypercoaster. Diamondback and Behemoth are so similar. I absolutely love them both, but Behemoth is definitely special to me because I was a ride operator at Behemoth for 3 years, and it's just a majestic ride. I absolutely love watching it. The trains, I love the staggered seated hyper trains. That's why I love both Diamondback and Behemoth so much, but Behemoth has the most complete layout of any B&M hypercoaster. There's no duds. People will complain about the trim, but the trim doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't affect the airtime very much, and I have had a bunch of trimless rides on Behemoth before too, where the trims do not hit, and it flies. Holy crap. But Behemoth ends off with a bang, with that double helix finale, with the 2 final hills, with that drop off the helix. Definitely the best part of the ride, 100%. No duds, unlike Diamondback and Leviathan, so Behemoth is just a perfect B&M coaster. I wouldn't change anything about it. Again, people will complain about the rattle, but doesn't matter. Adds to the intensity for me. It's just such a perfect B&M hypercoaster. I wouldn't change anything about it. Taking the number 10 spot is Skyrush at Hershey Park. Wow, what a powerhouse. And I haven't even ridden it with the new restraints yet, so this ride could jump up even more in my rankings. But it's a speed demon. It has amazing airtime, great pacing. Fizzles out a little bit at the end, but you know what? The pacing during the first part of the ride makes up for it 100%. Insane laterals because those seats are so open. What's not to love about Skyrush? Also, that drop is killer in the back row. Holy crap. Taking the number 9 spot, I might get a little bit of hate for this one too, is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. As I said last year in my rankings video, I can't deny this has one of the best coaster layouts of all time. So much airtime, so much diversity. Yeah, it can be a little bit repetitive, but you know what? It has enough inversions and bank turns to make it diverse. It's just not my kind of ride. When I first rode it, I thought it was absolutely incredible. I thought it was my favorite coaster ever. But then I learned what my kind of rides are, and you guys all know, like I said before, speed is my favorite thing in a coaster. And yes, Steel Vengeance has some speed in the first half. I do prefer the first half over the second half, even though the second half is more rapid fire. But I just find the second half to be a little too repetitive for me. But I can't deny, Steel Vengeance is an insane coaster. I just realized I'm going to get hate for this one too. But coming in at the number 8 spot is Ravine Flyer 2 at Waldemere. And a lot of you guys are going to wonder, why is this over Steel Vengeance? And you know what this has over Steel Vengeance? It has great pacing, a great mix of airtime and laterals. It has some very aggressive laterals. It's not a lateral focused coaster. It has a lot of airtime. The tunnels are absolutely great too. The terrain usage is ridiculous. I can't believe how Ravine Flyer 2 has a 120-foot drop off of an 80-foot lift hill. That's crazy. The terrain usage is nuts. But yeah, it just flies up until the end where it kind of loses a little bit of speed. But you know what? To make up for a fantastic first half or first 2/3 of the ride, it's totally worth it. So much fun to marathon. Coming in at number 7 is once my number 1 roller coaster. This is Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. I rode this in 2 separate years. 2022, it ran phenomenal. It was my favorite coaster of all time. And then 2023, it kind of ran a little bit slow, but I still can't deny, between both of those years, Iron Gwazi is a relentless coaster, some great airtime, so much power. That wave turn is super powerful. Same with that first outer bank. It's got some insane elements. I definitely need to get back to ride Iron Gwazi again because I miss that coaster so much, and I need to get some better rides on it. Night rides are also super great as well. Taking the number 6 spot is a coaster I was very, very lucky to ride this year. This is Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point, a coaster that exceeded my expectations by a mile. Holy crap. First of all, I'm extremely lucky that I got to ride Top Thrill 2. I realize I'm one of the very few people that got to ride it in the 8 days that it was open, but holy crap, I was mind blown when I rode this. Absolutely destroys the original dragster for me. It doesn't have the original hydraulic launch, but that third launch on Top Thrill 2 definitely makes up for it. You're flying for such a long period of time at 120 miles an hour. Also, that spike lasts an eternity. That's probably one of the single longest airtime moments I've ever experienced. And can we talk about those trains? Those are single-handedly the best trains I've ever ridden. Those lap bars lock so they don't come any further during the ride. You get so much airtime if you have a lot of room, and these trains sit much higher off the track than the original dragster, so the laterals are crazy. The laterals going up the top hat and flying over, because you fly over this top hat now, you do not coast over it. You absolutely get ripped over the top, and then into the 270-degree spiral, you are thrown to the side. I can't believe how crazy these laterals are. That's what blew me away for Top Thrill 2. It exceeded my expectations by a mile. Entering the top 5, you're going to sense a little bit of a trend here. Number 5 is Intimidator 305, or Pantherian at King's Dominion. What an absolute speed demon. This Top Thrill 2 and the next few coasters on this list absolutely haul butt. Holy. I-305 is by far the most intense coaster I've ever ridden. It's got ridiculous pacing, great airtime, lateral snaps. If you're not a fan of intense coasters, this is not for you. You might prefer the next few coasters on this list, but I-305 is definitely for me. I need to get back to ride it because I haven't ridden it since 2019. So I can imagine it could jump up higher in my rankings than what it is now. Taking the number 4 spot is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Now, some of you might realize this was my favorite coaster on last year's list, but I just realized that I love it so much. Nothing has changed. Actually, my love for it actually jumped up a lot this year, but I've come to realize where Millennium Force ranks in my lineup, and I think number 4 is a perfect spot for it. I've loved this coaster for years. I have a soft spot for it. I absolutely love the pacing, the speed, the colors, the soundtrack. I just love everything about Millennium Force. I got my first ever front row ride on Millennium Force this year, and it was amazing. Way better than any other ride I've ever had on it. And it's something I get hyped to ride every single time I go to Cedar Point. So personally, I do think this is the best coaster at Cedar Point, but I can't deny that line is a little annoying to wait in, but it's totally worth it for Millennium Force. Coming in at number 3 is Wildcat's Revenge, my favorite RMC. This ride is a powerhouse. Wildcat's Revenge is 140 feet tall, so it's a mid-size RMC, but this is how I wish Iron Gwazi ran all the time, because Iron Gwazi ran like Wildcat's Revenge when I first rode it in 2022. So if Iron Gwazi ran like this, it'd be way higher in my rank. Wildcat's Revenge is a Joe Draves layout, so it has a great mix of airtime and laterals, something that's very unique for an RMC. That twisted double down is by far my favorite element on the ride. It gets me every single time. It's got a great mix of inversions too. I think Joe Draves nailed it with the layout, and it's a great top 2 with this and Skyrush at Hershey Park. Taking the number 2 spot is my former favorite roller coaster. This is Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. Velocicoaster blew me away when I first rode it. It was my favorite roller coaster of all time. I think the mix of theming and the layout is what makes Velocicoaster so good. That first half looks a little bit slow, but trust me, you do feel a lot faster when you're actually on it. And then the second half cranks it up to 11. You fly through that second half with some crazy elements like that stall with lots of whip in and out. There's a wave turn, there's an outer bank turn that has some crazy laterals to it, and then don't forget the Mosasaurus roll, probably the best inversion I've ever experienced, the greatest inversion of all time, if you ask me. Upside down airtime, like, how? Like, how is that even possible? I don't get it. It's still gonna be one of my favorite roller coasters of all time for a while, but I don't even think it's a fair competition when it comes to my number 1, the Voyage at Holiday World. Oh man, I get so excited just talking about it. Holy crap! So the Voyage is insane with the trims on, but with the trims off is next level. I've ridden the Voyage at night with the trims on. I've ridden it with the trims off during Hollywood nights, and I don't think that's possible to top that. I don't think any of the 4D coasters or Ride to Happiness will come close to it, because this is just my kind of ride. I can't believe it. Like, it has so much airtime. It throws you out of your seat more than any other roller coaster besides Steel Vengeance. And when it throws you out of your seat, every airtime moment feels distinctly different, unlike Steel Vengeance, where the airtime feels the same on pretty much every single hill. I think Voyage has a great flow to it. It almost feels like you're riding a boat up and down these waves in the middle of the sea. It's perfect. I can't believe that this ride actually exists, and I can't believe I finally got to ride it, and I'm going to Hollywood Nights this next year to ride it again. There's seriously nothing else like it, and Holiday World takes such amazing care of it. Voyage honestly is smoother than some of the B&Ms like Banshee and Behemoth and Diamondback. Like, I'm not even joking. It's so smooth. I seriously think there's nothing else like it. Like, people will say Ravine Flyer 2 is a mini version of the Voyage, and to some extent I do agree. They both have crazy terrain usage and a similar kind of layout where they have some big hills and some smaller hills and some laterals and a lot of tunnels, but they don't feel the same at all. Voyage is completely its own ride. It may look like Ravine Flyer 2, but they do not feel the same whatsoever. My favorite hill on Voyage is that switchback hill over the lift hill. It has some crazy laterals, then you fly through a tunnel where the ride absolutely screams through it. These tunnels are loud, and I love them so much. Yeah, this is going to be my favorite coaster for a while, so I don't know if anything else is going to touch this. So expect this to be at my number 1 spot for the next few years until I ride something better. Those are my top 25 favorite roller coasters. Voyage is number 1. Let me know what your top 25 is in the comments, and let me know what you guys think of mine. So anyways, take it easy, guys, and I'll see you guys later.